One of the most asked questions that we get at the Lambie is, what's your favorite protein bar? Very, very excited to hear more about the founding story behind Elemental Superfood bars.
My daughter got sick and I needed to figure out a way to help heal her body. I discovered that pulling processed foods out of a child's diet can help significantly heal. I started making the bars for my daughter. I didn't intend to start a business.
How has that recipe changed since turning this into a scalable business?
So the recipe is still the same. As I added on different flavors, it was just each bar has different benefit just depending on what the superfood is.
How did you think about incorporating adaptogens? Why was it something that was important to you?
My thing is I love to create nutrient-dense snacks that are delicious but also are functional. It doesn't make sense to me to make a healthy product and then put a preservative in it. There's a lot of times where I am really, really crazy about my sourcing of ingredients.
Welcome to Get Well Better, a podcast by The Lambie. In each episode, we're going to dive into the nuances of the health and wellness industry, but all through the lens of patients. When I was 23 years old, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and it made me aware of just how broken our healthcare system truly is. There was no coordination of care across my specialists. No one was talking to me about wellness and prevention. And there was definitely no hospitality. We've decided when building the Lambie that we wanted to be a true home base for health, sift through the noise of both the health and wellness industries, and help empower you to be your best advocate. And so in each episode, we're going to speak directly with specialists. We're going to ask them about the topics that need demystification and provide you with the resources to be the best possible version of yourself. Because at the heart of health lies proactivity, and knowledge is power. So let's embark on this journey to get well better together. This episode of Get Well Better is brought to you by Elemental Superfood, a brand that's as obsessed with clean, nourishing food as I am. If you're anything like me, you're always on the hunt for healthy snacks that don't just taste amazing, but also fuel your body with real, wholesome ingredients. Elemental Superfood is all about making nutrition effortless and delicious. Their bars and blends are packed with organic, nutrient-dense ingredients like nuts, seeds, and antioxidant-rich fruits. So whether you're powering through a hectic workday, squeezing in a workout, or just need a little boost, these snacks are designed to keep you energized and satisfied without any of the processed junk. I personally love their dark chocolate almond butter flavor. It's like a dessert, a snack, a superfood, all packed in one. Plus, everything is gluten-free, dairy-free, and free from refined sugars, so it's great for any diet and safe for kids. So let's make healthy eating simple and satisfying. Head to elementalsuperfood.com and use the code THELANBIE and you'll get 15% off your first order. Welcome, everyone. I am super excited today to be joined by Nicole James, the founder of Elemental Superfoods. So if you guys haven't tried these bars, they're the most wholesome, nutrient-dense bars out there. And the reason why I wanted to bring you on today is because, one, our team is obsessed with these bars. Our members are obsessed with these bars. And it's always interesting to hear from a founder how they thought about launching a bar company. It's like one of the most asked questions that we get at the Lambie is, what's your favorite protein bar? Or what's your favorite energy bar? The reason is because most bars are filled with horrible ingredients. And so it's really hard for consumers to know what is that thing that they should be carrying around in their backpack that's going to just get them by their afternoon slump, or, when they're in a pinch and they're not able to have the best lunch. So very, very excited to hear more about the founding story behind Elemental Superfood bars and just understand also sort of your perspective on wellness and consumer, sort of the industry around consumer wellness. So Nicole, thank you. I'd love for you to just start off by just giving a sense of sort of your background, how you came into this industry, what were you doing before, what inspired you?
First of all, thank you, Chloe. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. We love the Lambie. I love the whole concept, and Love what you are doing in this space. So my background is not a typical CEO background. I grew up in Minnesota. I ate fast food. My mother was working. We were, not really exposed to healthy food. My mom cooked dinner maybe once a week, and other than that, we were on the fly with the fast food, the prepared meals, TV dinners, frozen pizzas, all that stuff. So I didn't have any training in health initially. What happened is my daughter got sick and I needed to figure out a way to help heal her body. And so through my own research over, a period of time, I discovered that pulling processed foods out of a child's diet can help significantly heal different aspects of or different symptoms. So I started to research nutrition and I was self-taught, and then I've later been more formally educated. But I started making the bars for my daughter and it sort of started a business. I didn't intend to start a business. It just, there was a need for the products. Started making them for her, had friends asking about them. Had a friend who was doing juice back in 2010, cold pressed juice, who asked to put the bars on her menu. They kind of exploded. Her people went crazy and for the bars, and that's kind of how it started.
Wow. When
Yeah.
you were first designing the recipe for your daughter, what were some of the ingredients that you insisted on having, and how has that recipe changed since turning this into a scalable business?
So the recipe is still the same. And it's funny because I have a really bad habit of going into the kitchen and getting inspired. I wanted to make her, I was making a lot of kind of gluten-free. We did a lot of raw vegan, because she's allergic to dairy, she's allergic to gluten, very, very highly allergic, like can't even have a little bit. Processed sugar, refined sugar, she just could not handle. So I was dealing with a lot of, dates and honey and just natural sugars when I was making things. And we were doing a lot of cookies and muffins and different things like that. And I wanted to make her a granola bar, but something that didn't have oats in it. She couldn't tolerate oats at the time. And so I just started throwing things together, and I have a really bad habit of not writing things down. I just get inspired and I take what I have in the kitchen and I make something, and then it turns out great and I don't have the recipe. So that's exactly what happened with this. I wanted to make a bar for her, and I used, I had some organic sprouted buckwheat because I used that a lot. It's a highly nutritious gluten-free grain that we used in a lot of different, crackers and different things that I made for her. So I had some of that, and obviously raw honey. And the first bar that I made was our currant cacao and hemp seed. I had some hemp seeds, some currants, different seeds, and threw everything together. It turned out so good. And I remember a friend was over at the time and said, "Wow, these are amazing." And I said, "Shoot, I didn't write down a recipe." So I went through and, made them again several times until I matched that original batch. And that is the original recipe. That's still the recipe today. And then from there, as I added on different, flavors, it was just each bar has different benefits just depending on what the superfood is. Spirulina in one, we've got adaptogens in a couple of others.
Why have you decided to incorporate adaptogens? Because I think right now what we're seeing in the consumer wellness space is so many drinks with adaptogens and bars and protein powders and coffee with adaptogens. Like how did you think about incorporating adaptogens? Why was it something that was important to you?
I've been using adaptogens for probably 15 years. Reishi, chaga, cordyceps. We used to shop at the Air One in Beverly before it was the current Air One. And there was a guy that was at the smoothie bar who talked all about mushrooms back 15 years ago. And so, the importance of mushrooms and different adaptogens. We have ashwagandha in one of the bars as well. They're mood balancing, they're regulate hormones. I mean, there's nervous system. They've been used in other cultures for thousands of years for various things, regulate stress. And so I think to me, My thing is I love to create nutrient dense snacks that are delicious but also are functional.
Hmm.
And so I feel like the mushroom combinations, the lion's mane ashwagandha combination that's in our white chocolate macadamia bar, they're so good for your body. And in a delicious bar, why
Hmm.
not? Back to what I think is important is if we're eating to heal, we're eating to nourish, but we also want to eat to satisfy. And so to create something that has all of those things in one is kind of the goal when I'm thinking about a recipe.
And when you thought about the ingredients, had you done sort of an analysis around what are some of these other bars promoting, and having sort of been on the other side, were you more skeptical of certain labels that you wanted to avoid when you created your own bar? Just walking down the street, I see these trucks with new coffee recipe, like with adaptogens and with, without the crash and without the cortisol spike, or whatever it is. Like, what's some advice that you can give to a consumer when they're, looking at the bar aisle and trying to decipher what's actually healthy versus not? And how did you sort of apply that when you thought about your creation?
When I thought about the creation, I mean, originally it was for my daughter. My daughter was diagnosed with autism in 2001. Back then, there wasn't a lot of information. And so, when I went to take her to a doctor to address some of the issues that she was having, their first round of defense was, let's put her on medication. That didn't resonate with me. I didn't know a lot of what I know now, but that didn't resonate. So to find and study nutrition and see how much nutrition can heal if you're taking certain things out of the body, that was what I was thinking about when I was creating things for her, was what can I put in this that's going to nourish her, that's going to heal her, that's not going to be one of these things that's going to irritate, inflammation, cause gut disruption, all of the various things that she was dealing with at the time. When I definitely research ingredients, and again, very intentional about what I put in. And I think, there's so much information, like there's almost too much information now where it can be so overwhelming and
Yeah.
confusing, especially if someone is just starting out. And I think like the best advice that I can give is to just read the labels. And, it's, there's the oldest saying is that we are what we eat, right? You are what you eat. And I think somewhere along the way, especially in this country, we have lost that. And so read the labels. And if it's real food, then it's probably going to be okay. I mean, I personally think organic is best whenever possible. Not always possible, but if you go down the aisles in the bar aisles, or you go down, even in some of the health food stores today, and you pick up the package and you read the ingredients, there's a lot of stuff in there that is not really real food. It's not really natural, something that you could that's not
Hmm.
unprocessed,
Hmm.
anything you don't know what it is, probably shouldn't eat it.
Something like seed oils, as an example. Like, how did you learn that that was going to be, you know, that was something that was in other bars that you wanted to avoid? Like, or, specific preservatives, like how bad are they for people that you said, I don't care about the shelf life. Let's have people store these bars in their refrigerator. I care about not using
Right.
preservatives.
Well, again, it goes back to real food and natural, something that's in its natural state. It doesn't make sense to me to make a healthy product and then put a preservative in it. It doesn't make sense to me to make something that is supposed to be healthy and put a highly processed seed oil in it. Something that is not only been sprayed with pesticides and, is probably a GMO crop, but then it's been ultra processed into an oil and then put into it. That just doesn't make, I can't, that doesn't make sense,
Yeah.
From the beginning. It's just, I was fortunate to learn what is becoming more mainstream now about 15 years ago when I was on my journey. It all started really in 2001 when she was diagnosed, but really got into the food stuff around 2005,
Hmm.
2006, and was fortunate to meet some doctors that were ahead of their time and some nutritionists and study with them and really learn these things, learn about all of the various things that are in our
Mm-hmm.
foods, the
Yeah.
links to cancers that a lot of these preservatives have. So just from the beginning, it's never made sense to me to put anything that's not just a clean, natural, in its clean, natural
Mm-hmm.
state. There's nothing that I'm going to put in the bars. And believe me, it would be a lot easier as a business owner to cut corners. And, there's a lot of times where I am really, really crazy about my sourcing of ingredients. There's certain places I don't buy things from. Everything has to be organic and it has to be traceable. And there's times when we're out of stock on some of our best flavors because we were out of stock on our mulberry cacao spirulina bar for about a month a few months ago. Our buckwheat was
Yeah.
delayed. And, I wasn't going to put buckwheat from another source into the bars because it's just that
Mm-hmm.
important to me.
I want to take a quick break to share more about the Lambie. In the spirit of the new year, there's no better time than now to invest in your health. So if you've ever felt like your health deserves more than rushed appointments and impersonal care, you're not alone. That's exactly why the Lambie exists. We've created a personalized, concierge-style experience that puts you at the center of your health journey. With the Lambie, you have a dedicated care team, proactive wellness planning, and access to expert doctors who actually take the time to listen. It's healthcare tailored to your lifestyle, whether you're managing a chronic condition, optimizing your wellness, or just looking to feel your best every day. So if you're ready to experience healthcare that finally feels like it's designed for you, visit thelambie.com to learn more and schedule a consultation. Use the code GETWELLBETTER for $100 off your first quarter of membership. It's interesting because I think, again, to your point about being a business owner and having to make those very mission driven decisions, when you thought about the sort of the label, the nutrition label, for me and I call myself an optimizer, but there's such a spectrum of optimizers out there. But for me, the thing that I try to optimize more than anything is blood sugar, because blood sugar is linked to inflammation, it's linked to cancer, it's linked to obviously just so many other things that can go wrong in our bodies. And so when I look at a nutrition label, not only am I looking at the ingredients, but I'm also looking at the sugar content, whether it's added sugar, whether it's natural sugar, whether it's cane sugar, coconut sugar, maple syrup, honey. I view all sugar somewhat the same because I'm trying to sort of keep my sugar levels down. When you thought about designing this recipe, obviously you were thinking about your daughter and how to make sure that she was going to find this so satisfying and delicious that she would want to eat it, and therefore have all of the amazing, superfood elements that are also part of the bar. But were you at all concerned about the sugar content by adding in that honey? And were you nervous about sort of disqualifying the product from people who are so obsessed with sugar intake? And again, I know that we're a small bunch, but how did you think about that? I'm curious because, we see it all the time now with, quote unquote, healthy products. Sometimes the sugar content is still really high. And I always get frustrated. It's like, why can't you just make a healthy food that doesn't have any sugar content, and then it'll be like the healthiest it can possibly be? But then I realize that I'm such a small minority and most people don't have that sensitivity to sugar.
I totally feel where you're coming from. My daughter is sensitive to sugar. Anything refined is out of the question. The honey, for me, I have the same frustration as you do, but mine is, why do they have to put sugar and seed oils, for that matter, in everything? I walk down an aisle at a store and try and look at the dried fruit, and you've got this perfect dry fruit, you're this perfect piece of fruit that they've dried, and then they've put sunflower oil and sugar in it. And that to me makes no sense. So, I hear you. There's a couple different schools of thought. There's the, you know, all sugars are the same. And then there's, natural sugars versus processed sugars. And to me, I don't believe that all sugars are the same. That's just my belief. And I'm not saying that I'm right. It's just, for me, I think that the natural sugars, for example, fruit, there's some people that think that you shouldn't eat fruit because it's high in sugar. I disagree. I think fruit is, it's like God's food for, us on earth here. It's like literally there's so many antioxidants
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
so many vitamins and minerals that you can get in fruit that you can't get from anything else. So with raw honey, if you're using a raw honey that's not pasteurized, that hasn't been heated, it's full of enzymes, it's medicinal. So that was kind of my thinking. I wasn't thinking so much about people and what they were going to think, because again, I was originally creating these for my daughter. But that being said, with the sugar, when you have fiber and you've got some fat, good fat, and some carbs, kind of in a perfect synergy, then sugar, the little bit of sugar that is in the bar from the raw honey isn't going to spike your blood sugar, because you've got that good fat and you've got the fiber and you've got the carbs. And so that's why you can eat an elemental bar and not crash like you could if you eat something else.
Totally.
Um,
Yeah, I think that's a really
yeah.
important distinction to make, and why it's also important for people to be educated on the source of the sugar that's on the nutrition label, as opposed to just looking at the sugar content. Yes, you're absolutely right. When it comes to fruit, it's the same idea, right? You have to sort of compare not just the blood sugar impact, but also, what is the functional aspect of that food, and what's the trade-off, because the fiber that's going to be in that piece of fruit, the water content that's going to be in, and all the antioxidants are way better, and also, to your point, will potentially help blunt the spike when it's paired with more fiber, fat, protein. And so I think that the ingredient list that you've created is so unique for that reason. And I appreciate also the distinction between raw and filtered honey, because I think that people also don't recognize the importance of having high quality honey. My kids are big fans of honey. It's gotten a little bit out of control.
Yeah, my kids are
It's
too.
amazing. It's amazing. And I'm like,
It's
oh,
good.
you're sick? Why don't we just have more honey? Right? Like
Exactly. I know,
it's
and it's
very
amazing.
medicinal.
It
You
is.
said that there was this point in your business where, you started selling through your friend's, juice company, and it was just sort of flying off the shelf. So in terms of the trajectory that your company has taken, was it a hit from the get-go? Like, have you ever had challenges trying to go to market?
I have had very, very, very many, very many challenges. It's been interesting. But so my friend's juice business, before there was a juice bar on every corner, and it was her making cold pressed juice in her kitchen and delivering it to, she had about 75 customers from Pacific Palisades down to Palos Verdes. So it wasn't a juice shop, but she wanted to put something on her menu. And her customers, I made a couple batches. She handed out samples and everybody went crazy, and her customers started ordering them. Then, I started getting phone calls from people. I found your bars through so and so. Can I get some? So I started making them, and people would come to my house and pick them up. And I did that for a good year, grew out of my kitchen, moved to a commercial kitchen so I could start getting into some local stores. And, it's just, I've grown it really organically. I've had challenges along the way. We're still a relatively small business now, probably in about 700 stores. We sell online. We're not huge by any stretch of the imagination compared to a lot of the other bar companies out there. And, part of that is because I have kind of I've kept it true to the original recipe and the original idea. And it's hard to bring things to market and keep them at the
You're
quality
so right.
sometimes, that to do things in a huge mass scale production, which we still make relatively small batches of bars. And again, I'm still sourcing all the
Yeah.
ingredients and still have my finger on that. And I think when you get to a certain point, it's easy to lose some of that. And I just haven't been willing to do
Yeah, no,
that.
I think that you've also managed to not succumb to the pressure of, you know, a lot of consumers out there who are literally just looking for a protein bar. One of the bars that we used to, offer at the Lambie all the time, ended up changing their recipe, and the reason why they changed their recipe, which originally was so delicious, like it was my favorite bar on the market, but they changed the recipe to increase the protein content
Mm.
because everyone was looking for a protein bar. And once they changed the recipe, they lost it. Like it wasn't as delicious. The consistency changed. And, there's that trade-off that you just spoke about, which I think it's really impressive that as a company, you guys have really sort of focused on what is it that we offer. We care about being a functional nutrition bar. We're not a protein bar. We're not, and
Mm-mm.
we're not trying to be. And if you want a protein bar, like that's not what we stand for. You get your protein from other sources. You're still having some protein from the bar, but it's really about being that sort of stopgap, almost like a dessert slash snack to be able to also get in some of these amazing other superfoods that sometimes it's hard to get into our other regular meals. So I think it's also really important to just like know who you are, know what you're trying to be, and not trying to please everyone through your product. And so I'm curious, now that you've sort of gone through this journey of being almost like a functional nutritionist, have you changed your approach to diet? Like, I'm sure you're rarely eating fast food at this point, but like, what does your sort of wellness look like today?
Well, I haven't eaten fast food in probably 20 years. I'm not perfect. I will go out to eat and enjoy. I have an 80-20 rule, I think, sometimes 90-10, just depending. But yeah, I mean, I started changing. I was the person back 15 years ago that was doing the green smoothies and the juice and, eating the raw food and whatever when that was the big craze, and my showing up to family functions with raw desserts and my family making fun of me. But then of course my dessert was always gone, leftovers of everything else. I've been doing this for a while, and yeah, I mean, I think my wellness looks like I eat as clean as I can when I'm in control of what I can eat. I love juice, green juice. I don't do a ton of fruit juice, but I do like one every once in a while. I love smoothies to get the fiber and get, some greens and things like that, some fruit. I eat some high quality, animal products sometimes. I kind of listen to my body. I don't love eating that a lot, but I eat it because I feel like I do need it. I just eat real
Yeah.
food.
Are
And
there other brands in the consumer wellness space that you really respect?
I think Sakara does a really good job. They seem like they're doing everything really clean. I'm trying to think of, there honestly are not a ton of bars because I feel like a lot of them do have that kind of protein powder or high sugars, or I'm not sure about where they're sourcing their ingredients.
When you think about the wellness industry and how it's evolved, I mean, one thing that we hear all the time from members and the public, the wellness industry is so hard to navigate. There's so much information out there. It's changing so quickly. At one point in time, you're being told don't eat fat, and then 10 years later you're hearing that fat is everything and everyone should be on the keto diet. As you now are someone who's like on the inside, what is something that you feel really optimistic about when it comes to the wellness industry, and what's something that you just can't stand?
Well, I'm really optimistic about RFK coming in. I'm hoping that he can start holding some companies accountable for mislabeling. I'm hoping that he can start holding some organizations accountable for allowing all of the things in our foods. And, look, people trust marketing, they trust advertisement, they trust companies, that they don't think that, someone's going to market something to their children that it's not healthy for their children to eat. I'm looking forward to that. I'm also optimistic that I feel like people are waking up and there's more of a movement of real food, clean eating. And I'm excited to see what can happen to our country. I'm excited for our kids, because the way things are going right now, I don't think that we've been on a great trajectory. And I'm excited to hopefully see the tide change and start to go the other way so that, our children and our children's children can be healthy. And the chronic disease epidemic is insane. And a lot of that, I believe, is linked to what people are eating. I can't stand everything that I just mentioned in terms of the regulations and the things that are allowed into our foods. But I also can't stand that there are so many companies that have jumped on this wellness bandwagon because they want to hop on the train and make a buck, and they're marketing things as being healthy that are not healthy at all. That bugs me more than
Yeah.
anything. I'm hoping that comes to an end as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I think when people ask like, how do you do it? How do you approach wellness sustainably in a way that's not overwhelming and that doesn't consume your entire brain, right? Like sometimes when people get into the wellness space, they feel like they have to learn so much in order to live a wellness forward life. And oftentimes what we tell them is let's actually just go to the basics. And a lot of what you preach is the basics. Like focus on eating whole foods, try to avoid all the processed stuff. And if you just keep that simple rule, you'll end up being a very healthy individual. If you go to a grocery store, it's like stay within the outer perimeter of the grocery store. Or when you look at a nutrition label, make sure you understand all of the ingredients included on that label. To your point, wellness is sort of having a moment where people are changing the definition of wellness to be just like the most simplified version of it. And when you think about, again, going back to like your approach to wellness outside of nutrition, are there other elements of wellness that you incorporate that for you are non-negotiables, whether it's fitness, whether it's sleep, whether it's anything else?
Absolutely. I think sleep is so important, and I think it's been underrated for a long time. Obviously, enough clean water. I mean, I can tell such a difference just in how I feel if I'm not drinking enough water. Like, that's like such a basic thing, but it's so important. And as moms, busy, moms or busy anybody, you forget to drink water. I mean, I will have a water bottle next to me sometimes all day, and I'm at my desk and it's like 3 hours has gone by and I realize I haven't had any water. So I think that's something that's really simple that we can do. Exercise is so important, even if it's just a walk. I think getting out in the sunshine, for a little bit and getting some sun on your face and, on your body, nature. Yeah, and I also think, what we consume in terms of like what we're watching and what we're listening to, and all of that is so important to be mindful of as well. I think there's so much. I mean, that's another thing I hope to see change is there's so much violence and so much just, I don't know, just unsavory, entertainment these days that is like, we're sitting and watching this at night, before we go to sleep or whatever. And I mean, I don't personally watch anything violent anymore because I can't handle it. It's just too, I can feel it in my, consciousness, and I don't want it in my consciousness. But I think all of that is really important. I think we're not as connected as we should be. We're connected like this, but like sitting in a room with someone playing a board game or reading a book to your child or whatever it is. I think just all of those little things that you can do to stay grounded and connected and, I don't know, turn off the noise, all the noise that's going on around. I think that's all part of
Yeah,
it.
no, I totally hear you and agree, especially on the scary stuff. I'm like a big fan of not watching any violent thriller TV shows before I go to sleep because then my brain just like can't relax and I'm in this state of
Yeah.
stress that's just so unnecessary after an
Yeah.
already stressful day. So before we wrap, because this has just already been such an insightful conversation, thank you again so much. But I would love to hear if you have, any information you can share on where your company's headed. You have these delicious bars, so many different amazing flavors. You have the crumbles, which, people can use, just put it on top of their yogurt or have it with cereal. What's next? Like, what is a product or a SKU, or however you want, that you're really, really excited to get into, if there are any?
I have a few actually, and I have a couple things that I'm planning on launching the first half of 2025. Not bars, just a different category altogether. I'm excited to expand in other areas because the refrigerated set is really challenging. I don't know really what the future holds. I'm taking it kind of day by day. It's been like I said, there's been many, many challenges. It's been up and down. It's unpredictable because of the sourcing. Some days I can get things, some days I can't. It's very stressful, and because I care. And so it's like I'm taking it one day at a time right now. I want to, of course, grow Elemental. I never want to lose what it is, though. The last few years since COVID have been really tough. COVID was almost put us out of business, and I know it did many, many, small brands. It was really challenging to get through that, and we're through that obviously now and on the other side. But you'd be surprised at how long it took to kind of recover from that. Just really in the last year. I don't have a big business plan right now. I had one before COVID, and that all kind of went to, hell in a handbag overnight. And so I'm just at this point taking it day by day, trying to listen to like my intuition and just one day at a time, Lots of exciting things to come, different categories. I want to expand on the lifestyle side of things, make more readily available, kind of on the go, make on the go easier, because I feel like we're all on the go all the time. And
well, I'm super excited to see
just
what you
excited
come
to
up with.
continue to build.
Yeah, well, whatever it is you do, I'm sure it'll be not only delicious, but incredibly healthy. And that's so, so, so important, because once you trust that a brand cares about that, then you know that whatever they're going to come up with is going to be, amazing to incorporate in some way or other. So thank you for being so true to the mission and to the values that are so important to being, a representative of the wellness industry, because it's really rare to find. I'm glad that we have you in our space, and that all of our members now are obsessed with your bars. It really says a lot. So where can people find your delicious foods? I know you said you're in 700 stores. Where can they find you? And if they can't find you at a local grocery store, should they be ordering online? Tell us where we can follow.
Yeah, we do have a store locator on our website. We keep it pretty up to date, so you can see if we have stores in your area. If not, yes, we ship Monday through Thursday. And if you sign up for our newsletter, we always have specials and sales and things like that, pretty frequently. And so you get that information first if you're on our newsletter. But we're at elementalsuperfood.com. We're Elemental Superfood on Instagram. There's people like you too that are providing such a service for people and kind of changing the way that healthcare is done, and it's great. I love this time, and I'm excited, for the wellness space to just expand in the way that I think it should.
Yeah. You got to clean it up. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, thank you again, Nicole. And for those listeners out there who want to give Elemental a try, which I highly encourage, use the code that Nicole has graciously offered our listeners. It's the Landbeat, and you'll get 15% off your first order. This is an amazing bar to not only have for yourself, but also to share with your kids. I know as a mom, I'm always looking for healthy snacks that aren't filled with processed ingredients and seed oils, preservatives, and this is definitely going to be a really, really healthy snack for them. So it's good for the family. It's good for you. The Landbeat, and you'll get 15% off your first order. Thanks for listening to this episode. If you love what you're hearing, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode of the Lambie's Get Well Better podcast. If you know someone who could use these insights, share the love and send this episode their way. Together, let's get well better.